What's up, everybody? This is Dan Thompson from AroundTheAssociation.com, and this is the Around the Association podcast. This edition is basically ready to break down what the latest trade that just happened in the NBA between the Charlotte Hornets, the Orlando Magic, and the Chicago Bulls. Adrian Wojnarowski and Shams Charania both just broke the story about 45 minutes ago, with the Magic trading Bismack Biyombo to the Charlotte Hornets. They also, and the Chicago Bulls acquired Julian Stone, and the Magic pick up Timothy Mozgov and Jerian Grant in a 4-team trade that leaves a lot of people scratching their heads. So let me give a quick little breakdown and my thoughts and opinions on this entire trade. And I'm going to go from each team's perspective before I give a grade out for everybody involved in the deal. So let's look at the perspective of the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls sent out Jerian Grant to Orlando, and also in the deal acquired Julian Stone in the trade. I think Julian Stone was on the Charlotte roster at the time. So, yes, and there is my cat in the background. If you hear him, probably meowing. So in this deal, when you look at the deal for itself in the hands of the Charlotte Hornets, for the Chicago Bulls perspective, the Bulls have a interesting situation at point guard. You have, at the time, you have Chris Dunn, you have Jerian Grant, you have Cameron Payne. None of the three, but especially Grant and Payne, are exactly world beaters. Jerian Grant had a decent season when Chris Dunn was out, and Cameron Payne has bounced around the league and still not established himself. Including spending time in the G League last year. So really, there was a logjam at the backup point guard position in Chicago, and somebody had to go. Picking up Julian Stone gives the Bulls another versatile option on the wing. Stone can play both the 2 and the 3. The Bulls don't really have a strong small forward position, small forward at the point in time. Chandler Hutchinson, Paul Zipser are guys that are going to be getting a lot of minutes rotation. Maybe even some Denzel Valentine at the position as well too. So Julian Stone gives them another option. Julian Stone's a solid defender. Shipping out Jerian Grant means that, well, it didn't work. And he went to a team that could use a point guard. So, as we transition into the Orlando Magic side of things, well, the good news for Magic fans is that the Magic and their fans have been wanting to see what they can do with Bismack Biyombo's contract. Biyombo signed a 4-year deal worth around $70-something million a couple years ago, and it became one of the more unmovable contracts in the NBA based upon the fact of it is guaranteed and is a player option for next season, which Biyombo is not going to decline. Well, they've been wanting to get rid of this contract for a while, and guess what, Magic fans? They got rid of the contract. Here's the problem. They also acquired in the deal, besides Jerian Grant, they acquired Timothy Mozgov's contract. Well, good news is the Magic, they save $1 million. The bad news is you have another immovable contract that you just acquired for a contract that you thought you couldn't move in the first place. Timothy Mozgov has now changed teams twice, literally in less than a month of the NBA calendar year. In the last month, he's changed addresses twice. So he's gone from Brooklyn to Charlotte to Orlando. Well, Mozgov's contract is guaranteed for next year. It is a player. He's going to be on the roster next year. So that's another $16 million that's on the books. $16.5 million that's on the books. And you're going to have a hard time moving it. Congratulations. Now, what did the Magic actually make this move for? They acquired Jerian Grant. So the Magic had a gaping hole at point guard for a while now. Elfrid Payton didn't work. For those who have not been paying attention, Elfrid Payton had plenty of time here, and his time came to an end when they traded him mid-season to Phoenix, and it didn't work out in Phoenix before he signed a contract with New Orleans this summer. Best luck to Elfrid in New Orleans. I think he's in a very, very good situation, especially with Rondo not being back. Well, the team went into the offseason with Shelvin Mack and DJ Augustine. Both played really well. Down the stretch of the season, Shelvin Mack even led the team in assists. Well, Mack had a $6 million contract with a $1 million guaranteed, and they could have shaved $5 million by letting him go. Well, the Magic let him go. The draft happens, and well, they get Trae Young. Trae Young ends up in Atlanta in a deal that ended up with Luka Doncic and swapping the draft picks. The Magic didn't take Colin Sexton, and they didn't look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, so he didn't get any point guard in the first round. They ended up taking Mo Bamba, great pick. We've talked about this on other podcasts before. Well, second round comes around. Word of the streets, they had a guarantee and a promise for Devontae Graham. Well, the good old Charlotte Hornets jumped in front of the Magic in the draft and took Graham one pick before they did in the second round. The Magic took Melvin Frazier, then took Justin Jackson, still passing on the point guard in the second round. Well, we get to the offseason. Well, Orlando still was looking for a point guard, and this is not the market in the year for point guards. The Magic weren't going to get Chris Paul. Let's just not even go there with that. Jose Calderon was not really much of an option. He signed to Detroit. Chris Paul re-signed to Houston. Elfrid Payton, they've already barked up that tree one time before. It didn't work. Yogi Ferrell is still under contract with the cap hold in Dallas, so he wasn't being released at the time. And Jeremy Lin is still with a cap hold and still under contract in Brooklyn. So really that left guys like Shabazz Napier that's restricted on the market. And then there's the Isaiah Thomas rumor. The Magic then signed Isaiah Briscoe, and so now that brings us back to Isaiah Thomas. Now, what is going on with Isaiah Thomas and the Orlando Magic? Well, I'm going to say this because I'm not saying this on good authority. I'm not saying because I have inside information. But I think this deal for Jerry Grant has now ended the team's chase for Isaiah Thomas. It's over the last couple days, Steve Collar, Alex Kennedy have both went out on Twitter and said the Magic and Isaiah Thomas, they've danced for a little bit. They exchanged phone numbers, but really there was no connection there. AKA, in layman's terms, they couldn't get this done. Why they couldn't get it done? If you look at Isaiah Thomas's injury history and what's been going on with Isaiah Thomas over the last 2 years, let's be honest. When Isaiah Thomas hurt his hip, the best thing he could have done, hindsight's 2020, was to take surgery in the very beginning. Speaking from someone who's had a very bad hip, and I've had hip replacement surgery, and I'm not even 35. I just turned 35. So I had it a couple years ago. When you have a hip injury, it's one of those things, especially an injury type like that, you might want to get that thing taken care of early. In my case, I had a hip injury that I waited almost a year to get taken care of. By the time I had my surgery, it became a replacement. Not saying Isaiah had a replacement, but remember, I'm not a professional athlete. Isaiah went out and played in the playoffs. We all saw the performance he put in the playoffs, putting the Celtics on his back. Well, he delayed getting that procedure done, and it costed him a lot of money. Isaiah is also 5'9", but really a guy who was an MVP candidate less than 24 months ago is struggling to find a job. Why? Because when you have a hip injury, at least in some cases, depending on how bad it is, it could be a serious injury. Some people say this injury could be arthritic. And if you have arthritis or arthritic situation in a joint or a bone, it's not a good thing. There's going to be good days and bad days. I think personally, like I said, this is not going on any authority. This is not going on what I've learned from the team or people or speaking with individuals in this team. So go ahead and put this disclaimer out there right now as I'm saying this. I really think Isaiah Thomas wanted a long-term deal. And what I'm saying is you look at an example like Ryan, and you look at Anderson, Kyle Anderson in Memphis, in the offer sheet he got from Memphis. It's a restricted deal. He got the mid-level exception, but he got it for 4 years. So it's a 4-year, $37 million offer he got, but he's using the mid-level exception. I'm thinking Isaiah Thomas might have wanted something a little more guaranteed. Remember, Isaiah Thomas has been playing for his NBA life the last couple years because he's been looking for big money. Now I think he's looking for guaranteed money. The Magic are not in a situation where they're looking to pay somebody long-term unless it's a long-term solution, a.k.a. Aaron Gordon was a long-term solution. A.k.a. that's the reason why Nikolai Vucevic has not gotten a contract extension offer. The same thing with Terrence Ross. I don't think those two guys are in the team's future going forward. So when you're in a situation where the team's not going forward on certain situations, you kind of don't want to invest long term. I think Thomas wants long term money. I think that's what it is. I don't think it's the big contract. He wants multiple years. Jeff Weltman is a very, very smart GM. You saw what happened with Aaron Gordon. For those who missed the Aaron Gordon contract, the Aaron Gordon contract is very, very team friendly. What did it do? It wasn't $84 million. It was like $78 million, I think Josh Roberts reported today. But out of that $78 million, the number for Aaron Gordon goes lower, lower, and lower on the per year, which helps the Magic save more and more money every year. Aaron gets paid, the Magic save money, everybody wins. That's why Jeff Weltman is one of the smarter GMs in the league. And Magic fans should be very happy with what they did with Aaron Gordon's contract. I think they should be very happy because Isaiah Thomas, if he did want a longer-term deal, they kind of passed on it. I think what's going to happen is if Isaiah doesn't have a deal, I would say in another few weeks, I think they revisit this circle again, they revisit this dance again, and I think the Magic will have a little bit more leeway because as the jobs become more and more lesser and lesser for point guards, guys start taking contracts because you don't want to be left without a job. You don't. So I think Jeff Weltman acquiring Jerry and Grant just basically told Isaiah Thomas, now you have to play ball. Otherwise, we have 3 point guards. We're going to make this work for a year. And then once we get some more salary cap space next summer, we're going to make more moves. Now, as far as the Mozgov contract goes, listen, you got rid of Biyombo. The Magic got rid of Biyombo. They picked up Mozgov. Here's how this works for the Magic. Mozgov is not a plotting center. He's like a Vucevic, but he can actually protect the paint a little bit. He's not Biyombo, who doesn't have any offensive game. Biyombo has not one face of the offensive game you're possibly going to find anywhere. So Mozgov can play offense. I mean, if you go back a couple years ago when he was in Cleveland, he was a very solid starter in Cleveland during their championship run a couple years ago. So Mozgov can play. It's the fact that Mozgov got hit with a ridiculous contract, a lot of money, and he was in the wrong system. He's not one of those up and down, run-of-the-mill centers. He's just not one of those types of guys that can do that. Now, what he will do is that he'll be able to help a guy like Bamba in practice because he's a big physical body. So this is not going to anywhere enhance or endanger Mo Bamba's situation at all. Bamba is still the future of the center and the future of this franchise. I think Mozgov is going to be there to basically help strengthen Bamba, especially in the post. He's a very good post defender. And like I said, once they can figure out what to do with Vucevic next, you'll see him play more. You'll see how much of a role he's going to have. And besides, he's here for the next 2 years unless somebody wants to take it off the books. Let's flip things in Charlotte's direction now. Charlotte sent out Timothy Mozgov. They require Bismack Biyombo. I know Hornets fans like, okay, well, Bismack comes back home. It's like full circle. Biyombo started his career in Charlotte. He's bounced around a couple teams, Toronto, Orlando. Now he's back in Charlotte. Why would the Hornets make this deal? Well, if you look at the Charlotte front line, before the trade, you had Frank Kaminsky, Cody Zeller, Willie Hernan-Gomez, and you had Mozgov. There's one thing that neither one of those 4 guys can do. None of those 4 guys can block shots. None of those 4 guys can protect the paint. None of them can. Okay, Zeller and Kaminsky rather be on the perimeter. Cody is not exactly an intimidating shot blocker, even though he has shot blocking tendencies. Hernan-Gomez is not. Hernan-Gomez is a garbage guy, but doesn't protect the paint. And Mozgov is Timothy Mozgov. What you're going to get with Biyombo is that Charlotte fans have seen this before. Biyombo can block shots. I mean, I think when he plays, he gets over a block and a half a game, which is something you need off the bench. Biz is a very good locker room guy. Remember, this team had an entire season where Dwight Howard was in the Charlotte locker room. Biyombo is a very, very good guy in the locker room. Like I said, being around him in Orlando over the last couple years, I've got a chance to be around Biz and see what he does. He's a very, very positive and very good light in that locker room. And remember, Kemba Walker was there when Biz was a rookie. So you already know they have a good relationship. They came in together. They were part of the same draft class. They were teammates. This is not dealing with Dwight Howard all over again. So in the case of the Hornets, they get a shot blocker. Yes, it's a 2-year deal. Yes, you're adding on more money. Ironically, they did the Howard deal to lower themselves in the tax. They added extra $1 million in the situation by adding Biyombo. But Biyombo knows how to block shots. It will help Charlotte when it comes to blocking shots. And he also is he's a rebounder when needed, but he's not going to provide any type of offense. He's not going to give you anything offensively. But he will rebound, he will block shots. That will help, especially if he's in the paint with Cody Zeller being more of on the perimeter, and even with Frank's in the game, because Frank doesn't want to play the center position, because he's not really defensively inclined to do that. So it does make sense in some ways for them to acquire a guy like Biyombo. So as I grade each of the teams in the deal, and I look at it from a higher end perspective, I give Chicago a C. Why I give him a C in the deal? Well, Julian Stone can play, some of the 2, some of the 3. It does alleviate a bad backup point guard situation in Chicago. It doesn't move the needle for Chicago either way. But they do get a chance, I guess, to give Cameron Payne more minutes. Or if they decide they want to do something different or they want to bring a point guard up. I did like the kid they had last year from Windy City, Antonio. I can't remember Antonio's last name. He was part of their G League team last year. He scored a ton of points. Was one of the leading scorers for the Bulls in their G League team last year. If I can remember his name before this podcast is over, I will bring it over to you. But he was one. He came over at the end of the season, and he did really well for the Bulls, especially for the Windy City Bulls, but for the Chicago Bulls. Antonio Blakeney, there we go. Blakeney was the starting point guard for Windy City last year in the G League. Played really well down the stretch for Chicago. Had a couple 15, 20-point games, I want to say it was, before the end of the season. So I think maybe they're going to give Blakeney some more time. And like I said, it gives them a chance to see what they have with Cameron Payne, and if they have enough time to go pick up a point guard. If they feel like there's one they can get from overseas or some other place going forward. So I give the Bulls a C. Nothing that's going to change the needle, or they're not going to make the playoffs. Orlando, well, I give them a C minus. And only reason why it's a C minus because Mozgov is not as good as Biyombo is defensively, but he will provide offense. But I don't know how much playing time he's going to get. The Jerry Grant pickup is a low risk, high potential situation. If he works out well, then you're good. You don't have a much risk on him. The low side is Jerry Grant didn't play well in Chicago either. There's a reason why he lost out to Cameron Payne. Cameron Payne's not that good of a point guard either, but it's a risk that you take, and you do have another point guard on the roster. If you're a DJ Augustine fan in fantasy, it does help you out because until the Magic acquire a point guard, DJ Augustine is the guy there. So I give Charlotte a C minus in this situation, and I give Charlotte actually a B in this situation. It did address a hole. There's no shot blocking there. There's nobody to protect the paint, and Charlotte does get a guy who protects the paint, a guy who knows Kemba Walker, and a very good locker room influence. Dwight Howard was a problem in the locker room last year. It's been well documented, and even Kemba Walker and Dwight Howard didn't see eye to eye. You add another guy that Kemba Walker knows, another good locker room guy. They added Tony Parker. They added Biyombo. They added some veterans on the team. Biyombo's familiar with Kemba Walker. They know how to play the pick and roll, and Biyombo is familiar with Charlotte. And he's a very good teammate and a very good locker room guy. So I give Charlotte a B in the situation. So really, to sum it all up, it's not much of a league changing deal. It's not going to put either one of these three teams in the playoffs. And really, technically, it might be a deal where nobody really wins. But you got to look at it from a perspective of why these teams did it. I understand why each team did it, and so it makes sense that way. So tell me your thoughts. Leave your thoughts below. Hit me up on Twitter at NBADT29. Also found Around the Association on Facebook at Around the Association Radio, as well as on the website, which is aroundtheassociation.com. And like I said, I'll drop more podcasts throughout the week as I'm working on the website to get back in order. So, Magic fans, Hawks fans, and Bulls fans, let me know how you guys feel about your teams. So, we'll catch you guys later. Leave your comments below and tell me what you think. Peace.